Recently, a number of philosophers approached a very similar position from a different direction, namely the epistemology of the 18th century Scottish philosopher Thomas Reid. Nicholas Wolterstorff, formerly of Yale University, now retired from there, explains, at the very foundation of Thomas Reid's approach is his claim that at any point in our lives we have a variety of dispositions, inclinations, propensities to believe things. Believe dispositions, we may call them. What accounts for our beliefs, in the vast majority of cases anyway, is the triggering of one and another such disposition. For example, we are all so constituted that upon having memory experiences in certain situations, we are disposed to have certain beliefs about the past. We are all disposed upon having certain sensations in certain situations to have certain beliefs about the external physical world. Upon having certain other sensations in certain situations, we are all disposed to have certain beliefs about other persons. Continuing to follow Reid's trail, Wolterstorff goes on to note that Reid was also interested in how humans come to have these belief-producing dispositions or mechanisms. Here is how Wolterstorff explained Reid's theory. Reid said, somewhere in the history of each of us are to be found certain belief dispositions with which we were simply endowed by our Creator. They belong to our human nature. We come with them. They are innate in us. Their existence in us is not the result of conditioning. It must not be supposed, however, that all such non-conditioned dispositions are present in us at birth. Some, possibly most, emerge as we mature. We have the disposition to acquire them upon reaching one and another level in maturation. Let me approach this from a somewhat different position. Many philosophers will admit that some of the most important things we believe, we humans believe, have never been proven, and in fact, could never be proven. Let me give you 2 or 3 examples. How do we know that the world outside of us really exists? Now, if I had enough time, and if I were cranky enough right now, I suppose I could have many of you doubting the existence of the world outside of your mind. Well, for example, all right, do you realize that when you perceive the world, right now I'm looking at a table, I'm looking at a sofa, I'm looking at a tape machine, I'm looking at interesting lamps, but do you realize that what I am immediately aware of, what I am most aware of, are not those things. I'm aware of ideas of those things. What I really am conscious of is an idea of a sofa, an idea of a table, an idea of a lamp, idea of a carpet. And where do these ideas exist? They exist in my mind. But what all of us do is we assume that those ideas, which are immediately present to our consciousness, those ideas really point to the existence of a real lamp, a real sofa, a real chair, a real rug that exists in what we call the external world, the world outside of us. But how can we ever be sure that this world that we think exists outside of us, independently of our consciousness, really does exist out there? How can we really be sure that there is an external world? Well, as advocates of Reformed epistemology point out, no one has ever really proven that. But nonetheless, Reformed epistemologists, through the work of Thomas Reid and other thinkers, argue that this is how that comes about. There is within each of us, the Reformed epistemologist argues, a disposition to believe in the world outside of us. We have a tendency, a disposition to think that the world exists outside of us. And of course, we all, at least I think, that that's a pretty good disposition. How do we explain our belief in the existence of other minds? To use another example, when you look at another person, you're aware of you're aware of bodily activity. You're aware of indications that the person hears you, understands you, is able to think. But how do we know that human beings actually have a mind? Now, we don't question the existence of our own mind because we're immediately conscious of that. But whence comes our belief that other people have minds? Whence comes our conviction that this person I'm looking at, that I'm talking to, is a real, living person with a mind? Here again, the Reformed epistemologist comes to our rescue. He says, among the many dispositions to believe that every human being has is the disposition to believe in other minds. All right? Nobody has ever proven that other people have minds. Nobody has ever really proven that there is an external world which the ideas in our mind imitate. Give you one other example. Whence comes the confidence that we all have that our memory beliefs are veridical, that our memory beliefs are legitimate, truthful? The answer is no one has ever proven that. So here are examples of a number of beliefs that we have which no one has ever proven and which many philosophers think could never be proven, but about those beliefs we have no question at all. We are confident that those beliefs are reliable. Well, that's one contribution of Reformed epistemology, that human beings arrive at knowledge beliefs. Human beings believe that certain things are true because we are born with these innate dispositions to think. And where do these innate dispositions come from? Answer: they come from the God who created us. Now, what we're talking about here is something very close to what I discussed in my summary tape on Plato's epistemology and Augustine's epistemology. Plato believed that every human being is born with certain innate ideas. Plato wasn't sure where those innate ideas came from, but the great Christian philosopher Augustine knew where they came from. God implanted those innate ideas in the human mind. Well, likewise, the Reformed epistemologist is telling us that God has implanted these dispositions to believe within each of us, and all that is required for these dispositions to begin to function is some kind of triggering condition. Some kind of triggering condition.